Good afternoon, this is David T from Field Sports Scotland. This is another episode of FSS Chatback, and this is my weekly podcast where I talk about everything country related, shooting related, ecology related, conservation related, try and do as much possible. It's not always easy, but hey, you're hearing me for the next 20 odd minutes to half an hour chatting about whatever I feel like at the moment, because nobody has actually asked for me to talk about anything, which is kind of strange and maybe something I shouldn't really say. But we are getting, first of all, I am going to appreciate the visitors we're getting. Our podcasts are doing very well. My podcast is doing very well on Spotify and people and places like that. You can get me in most of the platforms. And YouTube seems to be consistent, which is great. So yeah, keep that up. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. I have, what have I been up to? Right. So yes, I have been finishing off the review for the HIC Micro 4K LRF, which is fantastic, by the way. And it was a pretty specific review. It wasn't to do with night vision, considering that's what the scope was probably designed for. I think it was night vision to death. So we have been doing the review on the use of the scope for deer stalking, which is pretty controversial in Scotland, considering it only became legal to use that kind of scope for deer 6 months ago or 7 months ago. So yes, so that was a pretty exciting review. That was for our McLeod's in Tain, which is a fantastic gun shop. You really need to pick them up. And that HIC Micro is, I think, is around about £150. I can't remember. £149 or £148. £848, sorry. Not 100. £848 to £850. 800. I'm going to say that again. This is the second video, to be fair, I've done today, because I was finishing off the HIC Micro review, so I am a little bit, a little bit kind of hyped up, because it looks like I've got a lot of editing to do over the next couple of days. But this will be out on Thursday night, like what it always is, while I'm at RNLI training. I will be uploading this to YouTube, and hopefully you guys will be interested in what I have got to say. So this week, what we're going to talk about. I've been stalking this week, which is great. Summer stalks. I shot a roebuck the other night there. I've shot a couple of reds, a couple of sika, which is absolutely fantastic. Just carrying on with the normal deer management plan that we've got. Just the usual paperwork, putting in for licenses, deer licenses and stuff like that, and checking out the new legislation, make sure I'm compliant with everything I can. So that's great. We're all up to date with that. The shooting wise, foxing, we'll carry on with the foxing, but the lambs are pretty much all grown up, and I haven't lost, I lost two lambs this year to fox, and out of 6 farms, that is fantastic, I think, as well, which is great. So nobody can complain about that, considering how much lamb is right now. I think it's around about £200 a lamb. So the guys that have got sheep right now will be making a bit of money. So that helps the farmers out, which is great. Absolutely fantastic. I'm saying fantastic a lot. I don't know what's going on. So I think I might touch on that HIC Micro review that I've did. I'm not going to spoil the rest of the review for you. If you want to watch that, that is on my channel, on my YouTube channel. However, it is a fantastic scope. It's a very controversial topic to have a digital night day vision scope that is useful for deer stalking. It was a bit of a taboo subject when people were talking about deer stalking. They don't really talk about this. And I did talk about a bit in depth last week in regards to scopes and the state of the scope market. But I have to emphasise, for the facilities, £848 isn't a heck of a lot of money for a scope with an internal LRF and ballistic drop calculator and all the fancy stuff that comes with multiple different types of devices that you need to get the same kind of performance. And that is pretty much what I'm going to say on that. Yes, so I am going to touch in a couple of weeks about apex predator reintroduction. It seems to be a big topic, and I want to get your thoughts on it before I get into that, because I have a good feel. I have a feeling about it, and I am for apex predator. Yeah, there's a controversy there. I am for apex predator reintroduction, but I don't call it reintroduction. I call it reintegration. But when we get to that show, I will explain what I mean, the difference between reintroduction and reintegration. And that is all down to the psychology of bringing apex predators back into an environment they have been in for the last 300 years. But today I'm going to talk about calibers and rifles, and when you're planning your firearm certificate, or if you're planning your firearm certificate. First of all, what do you want your firearm certificate for? Now, I've touched on this in previous shows and stuff like that, but I want to go a little bit more in depth for it, because I have been asked a few times now in regards to calibers and what to go for and stuff like that for deer stalking and that. Now, I am very snobby when it comes to certain calibers. For instance, everybody who knows me knows that I don't like the 308. However, that does not mean that the 308 is not a great stalking cartridge. That is a fantastic cartridge. There's probably millions of things that have been taken using the 308, including people in that matter. However, it's down to personal preference. First of all, know what you're applying for your firearms certificate for. I got asked this the other day, in fact, and this is probably one of the reasons why I thought I'd bring this up, is traditionally you would always ask for a small caliber, rimfire caliber, usually 17 HMR, 22 LMR, 22 LMR, 22 LR, 22 WMR, that sort of thing. A medium range caliber for roe deer and foxes and whatever, and traditionally that would have been the 243 for a lot of people. For me, it was the 243. For other people, it would have been 223, 22250. All of them are fantastic kind of calibers. You'll hear a lot of guys talking about 204s and 222s and all sorts. All fantastic in their own little way, and all ideal for small game and vermin, which is great. And then your large calibers that run from your 6mm 243 up to whatever, pretty much 7mm or whatever, you know. And it's choosing what is right for you, because I can't turn around and tell you what is right for you. And every caliber has its downsides. For instance, right, one of the oldest calibers out there is your 22LR. I think it was 1892 or 1894 or something silly like that is when that was invented. And it's adapted, yes, it's evolved over the years, but we are talking like that's ancient. And it's pretty much using the same rimfire manufacturing as what it did way back then, and it does now. And how much can you adapt it? No, you can't adapt it that much, but you can adapt the ammunition, and that is where the big question lies when you are picking your caliber. What ammunition is going to be readily available to you where you stay? Because the fact of the matter is, there's no point buying an obscure, I don't know, 6.8 Western or something like that. And if you cannot get the ammunition for it, because you're not going to be able to shoot it. You get 20 rounds and that'll be it. And you'll not be able to get to know the rifle, the caliber, the bullet drops, all the amazing things that you need to know when you are shooting. And to be honest, that is probably the big thing. And the one thing I get asked a lot in regards to 6.5 Creedmoor, because I shoot 6.5 Creedmoor as well as the other calibers that I've got. And people go, oh, what about, do you shoot with small primer or large primer? Well, I do reload for most of my stuff. And I shoot with large primer. The reason why people, especially in the States, use small primer is because of availability of stock in their area. They shoot what is available in their area, and that's what you have to do. You have to adapt to the situation that we unfold. Now, we're just as likely to be able to get small primer as well as large primers in this country. When there's a shortage of primers, there's going to be a shortage of both, because technically we have to import most of our products. So if it's going to be a shortage elsewhere, it's going to be a shortage here. So we don't really tend to go down the route of actually worrying about the difference between small primer and large primer. And in the 6.5 Creedmoor, I would genuinely prefer to shoot large primer because the performance is far better than a large primer. But genuinely, in places where they do shoot 6.5 Creedmoor with small primer, that is because they have a shortage of large primer, not because the fact it is better for the caliber. So when picking your calibers, think about what is readily available. Likewise, when it comes to the cost of the rifle, if you've got a budget of £1,000 for a rifle, don't go for an obscure caliber that's going to cost you £1,800 to £2,000 or even £3,000 to get, because that is a want instead of a must-have. You know, it's going to take you well and truly out of your budget. It's like I'm sitting here waiting patiently for a 6.5 PRC UPR to come up at my price point. And I'm looking at the super varmints, the Tikka super varmints at the moment, and I am still looking at them being priced so high at £1,800 to £1,900 just for the rifle. We're not talking about moderator scope and all the extra bits that goes along with it, bipod slings and whatever. So I am sitting patient waiting for my chance. And I wasn't patient with my 223, but then again, I did need my 223 immediately because of the fact that I was in the middle of a large roe deer cull, and it was far less expensive to shoot roe deer with the 223 than what it was with the 270 or the 6.5 Creedmoor. So think about it when you are coming down to cost and availability, and then start thinking about what rifles that you're going to shoot. Look at the reviews. There's hundreds of reviews. There's lots of bogus reviews. I look at a lot of the American stuff because these guys get to shoot more than what we do. But check on places like Stocking Directory. Even drop me a line and I'll give you a bit of advice where I can advise you. But don't find yourself lost, and do not go spending a lot of money when you really don't have to, because trust me, unless you've got a specific idea what you want to do and what you want, you could go down a minefield of being stuck with something that is so bloody expensive that you cannot get rid of it, and you will not make your money back. It's like scopes, rifles, anything. Oh, do you know what? There's a few things. Like there's a big thing about bipods right now, and I mean, I was searching for bipods the other week there, and oh my mind was pickled with it. And 90% of what's on the market is absolutely useless to me, you know, or I see it's going to be a hindrance. I find a flaw with literally everything. So just think about, take a breath, well, which I should be taking, mind you, is take a breath and look at what you have got. So there we go. So when you are thinking about applying for your firearms certificate, first of all, think about what you want to shoot. Have you got the availability to shoot what you want? Are you able to afford to shoot what you want? For instance, if you're wanting to shoot deer and you've asked for a 270, first of all, do you have the property that you could go to shoot deer? Because that's the first thing you will get asked on your firearms certificate when you're applying for your firearms certificate. They don't give a toss what actual gun that you shoot, as long as it's within the parameters that they set for you, which calibers, ammunition, that sort of stuff, right? What they want to know is that you've got somewhere to shoot it, somewhere to use it, you've got a need for it, and that you are competent enough to do that. So that's the main point of it. So first of all, if you've got a small holding that is around about 150 acres and all you have got is coming on that site is some roe deer, some muntjac maybe, and foxes, and you've got a heap of rabbits, you're not going to ask for a 270 or a 308 or something like that. You're probably going to just ask for a 22 or LR or a 17 HMR and something like a 223 or a 22250 or something small, or even a 243, which is good. The 243 is good, and the 6mm are good because that takes you into the larger calibers when you need to. So you can go and shoot big deer if you need to, but it still has those small varmint rounds that allow you to shoot the smaller game such as roe deer, muntjac, Chinese water deer, and foxes. But if you're wanting to go do deer stalking, you're taking on a deer stalking syndicate, you've got no pest control, you've got no interest in doing foxes, you've got no interest in doing rabbits or anything like that, then you might want to go for just one big caliber like a 308 or a 270. I'm using those as an example because the fact of the matter is 308 and 270 are the most popular mid to large range calibers that they are that is used in the UK, especially in Scotland. So you really need to think about that. So you've got the need and location. Then you're on to budget. Budget, how much can you afford for a rifle? Is the caliber that you're asking for, is it readily available for ammunition? Are you going to reload? And saying that, are you able to get the powders and stuff like that in your location for that specific caliber? So that's that. And then the actual equipment itself. What brands are good? Do your research in and what brands. I tend to stick to Tikka because you can't really go wrong with a Tikka. But there is other ones, Bagara and various others. But you'll hear horror stories about everything. Like, I got plenty of horror stories I could tell you about Howa, and I will never have another Howa in my life. But I can almost guarantee you there's about 100 people listening to this podcast right now who will tell me that Howa are the best on the market. So it's horses for courses when it comes to that sort of thing. Now, then it's not just the rifle, then you've got to think about your equipment after that. So you look at your plan for a budget. Anyway, I've gone enough about in regards to advice on that side of things. It was only because somebody asked me the other day there in regards to it. Just do what the FEO, the Firearms Inquiries Officer, if you're in the UK, asks of you, because it might be a little bit of compliance, it might go against the grain a little bit, but these guys are the ones who regulate who gets a rifle, who gets a firearm, and who doesn't get a firearm. So play nice with them. They're just doing their job, and a lot of them actually are not very clued up on sporting as such. They might have experience in individual sectors of sporting, like shotgun shooting or whatever, but in regards to, depending on your location, it might just be an officer who's never picked up a firearm in their life before that is dealing with this. So bear with them, and prepare to be educated and prepare to educate. That is the way it goes. But speak to them at your level. Don't speak to them as if they're against you, because 90% of them are not against you or against what you're doing. Now, we're around about 20 minutes into the podcast, and I'm actually going to speak for the next 10 minutes in regards to how I feel I want to bring this podcast to go forward. I really want to get people involved in this podcast. I want to get people from all walks of life in regards to the countryside sports and ecology and conservation. I want to get everybody involved in this to find a middle ground for every single person. So if anybody who would like to come on and talk about apex predator introduction, sporting estates, or shotgun shooting, which I admittedly have not got a huge amount of experience in shotgun shooting. I trained as in grouse keeping and stuff like that, but to be honest, shotguns are not my favourite. I own a few shotguns and I use them on occasions, but I tend to spend a lot of time shooting rifle, which is basically because that's what my job is. But there is plenty of other sports out there that are being affected right now by legislation and change. And if you want to come in and talk about that, we can, because there is a big attack on the sporting estates right now, and some of it is rightfully earned, and others is not rightfully earned. In fact, in the conservation side of things, the sporting estates get a lot of grief that they really shouldn't get grief over, and it seems to be a battleground for everybody to have a go at the moment. But when you look at an amazingly managed grouse estate over a self-managed estate, meaning self-managed means self-regeneration, where nature is basically taken over, then you need to think, you've got to see the differences, because most grouse estates at this time of year will have an abundance of ground nesting birds. Most of them will be waders that have come in and nested inland during the summer months. And if you look at the regenerated estates where no pest control, nothing like that gets done, they'll have far less ground nesting birds at the moment, and far less waders coming in and nesting. And honestly, that has to be seen, there is a lot of progress in regards to changing the mindset of sporting estates when it comes to raptor persecution and badger persecution and other predator persecutions. And to be honest, we have come a long way, where we've come to the point where we can probably now have a honest and unbiased and adult conversation and debate about the benefits of sporting estates and some of the things that they do good and some of the things that they don't do so well, and some of the things that they do absolutely outrageous with, for the future landscape to ecologically improve and become more biodiverse. Now, I'm coming out with all the big words today, I think, but that is just my point of view. I want to take this forward because I think there's a lot of gamekeepers, young gamekeepers out there specifically, who are very ecologically minded, conservation minded. And we always bring this word in along with shooting sports of conservation. And yes, we are all conservationists, but there's different ideas on one person's conservation is another person's damage, and I think we need to start having a proper conversation about this instead of having the arguments that we do have. So you're welcome to come on here, whatever walk of life is, whatever thoughts are. If you are somebody who has no idea of what's going on in the countryside and you're a city dweller and you just happen to be listening to this, why don't you come on and ask questions of the likes of me and other people who work day in, day out in the countryside? Ask your questions. And do you know what? I have this opinion in my head that there is no such thing as a stupid question. The only thing is how it's answered, and that is, if you don't know, you don't know. Simple as, if you have a question and you don't know the answer to it, then ask it. Because you should ask it, because you should be asking questions all the time. And if you're not asking questions, and if you're done asking questions, then I'm sorry, you really need to start asking questions, because you're bringing yourself to be a little bit more ignorant. And if you think you're so educated that you don't need to know the answers to anything, then I'm sorry, you are very uneducated, because I tell you one thing, by God, I don't have all the answers to everything. What I do have is an abundance of people where I can get those answers from if I need those answers. So if I don't know something personally, or I bring something up here, you think, oh, David is really intelligent in regards to this, or he's really stupid. Most of the time it's probably stupid. But if I brought something up and said, oh, I didn't know that, and that's true. Do you know the reason why I know it is because I probably researched it. I probably spoke to somebody who is an expert in it. And I've got the things that I'm good at. And even then, I'm not fully... There's still questions I will have to ask about technology and whatever that I just don't know the answer to unless I ask. So It's always good to ask questions, and this is what this podcast is going to be about in the future, is about asking those questions of why we need certain legislation, why we do deer management, why we need apex predators or don't need apex predators, why reintroduction is good or bad. Like they're doing a big beaver reintroduction in Scotland just now, and under license. Now I've been to the States. I went to Tennessee and I've seen the damage that beavers can cause to areas. Is that ecological beneficial for the area in the long run? I have no idea, because I am not old enough to see the difference between what is damage and what is not as damage, and I probably will never see the benefit in my lifetime, because some things cause a lot of damage, but in the overall scheme of things, may in 10 years' time, because of or as a result of the damage that they've caused, is going to benefit the environment biodiversity. Biodiversity. That's it. So because I'm seeing damage now and what looks to me is a mess or damage, doesn't mean to say it is going to be like that in the future. It could be that mess results in something very special. But I don't know this. So, and I've got no experience in this. So it is worth trying to find out from those who I can ask questions to and say, right, so what do you expect to achieve from wild boar turnings or beaver damming or reintroduction of lynxes or wolves or whatever? What do you expect to achieve? And then I'll try and bring a counterbalance, because the fact of the matter is I kind of know what's going on now and what would be expected or what I think might happen. And that's the basis of a proper discussion, and that's what we need. Anyway, I have been talking too long with yous and baffling about nonsense. Check out the Hick Micro review that I'm going to put up. It might be a day or two after this podcast, but bear with me, because I've got a lot of editing to do and I've got to sift through some of the footage as well. It is fantastic. The way the technology is going unbelievable. And at £848, yes, £848, it's far cheaper than what a lot of the day scopes are at. But we're not going to go down that scope minefield like what we did last week. Other things is I've got other things on my YouTube channel that you might be interested in. Disassembling bolts on CZ455s. I will put up some footage of some ground pest control, such as rabbits and things like that. I have another scope coming into review. I'm waiting on it patiently. I thought it was going to arrive last week, but it didn't. Maybe to do with the bank holiday. I've got another one from Arcoon Optics, which is a new Zulus 3-12. So get in touch if you want to be part of this podcast, and even just listening makes you part of this podcast. Happy hunting, stay safe, and like and subscribe. Speak to you all later.